All right.
Yeah, in 1975, when I was going to graduate from Florida Memorial University, I was alcoholic. At 25, I was a full-blown alcoholic, and I became paranoid. And see, my field of study was sociology. My major was sociology. My minor was psychology. And I used to say to myself, I'm a psychologist, I'm a sociologist, and I can't help myself. So why am I in school to help people to help themselves when I can't help my own self? So I made a decision when I went home.
We're going to have to talk about this.
My decision when I went home was not to go back to school because I was smoking and drinking was my biggest downfall. But I stopped smoking in 1975 when I stopped smoking marijuana. Because I read up on marijuana to find out the effects of marijuana, and it was three effects that it would give you. You would smoke, you would laugh, you would get hungry, and then you get paranoid.
Oh yeah.
And that's exactly what happened to me. I would laugh. I laughed about 4 years, and the fifth year, I got paranoid in 1975. I got scared. I smoked the joint, and it made me scared. And then when I drink, it made me bold. I cuss, fight, get beat up. But that's what alcohol did for me for 50 years.
Well, you know what, Rod, right? R-O-D?
Rod.
Rod. Man, we are glad that you are here. And thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one it is that you choose to use. And in the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. I didn't want to interrupt you there, but
No, I'm good.
that was good stuff. And this is also Real Recovery Talk. In case you just stumbled onto this podcast and you don't know what the hell you're listening to, we're all about addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, rock and roll, food, gambling, you name it, we cover it for the most part, not the rock and roll part. But Rod, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. And what you just said is what New Life do. We cover it all.
Yeah.
Gambling Anonymous, Marijuana Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, whatever it is, that's what we try to help you with. And we have it all in New Life.
All right.
So my story is 50 years of addiction, of alcohol drinking, 50 years.
Well, hang on a second. I want to make the proper introduction because this needs to be done. Rod here is he's here because episode 299.
I think it was 299. Yes,
we
sir.
had Reverend Glenn. Mm-hmm. Reverend Glenn was on the show, and man, that was fun.
Who's sitting in the audience right now?
He's sitting in the audience right now. I don't know. He might be asleep. He's just being quiet. Reverend Glenn, it was an awesome episode. It was episode 299. So if you have an opportunity if you haven't listened to that yet, please go back and listen to it. Because like I said in the beginning of that episode, I could tell that it was going to be one that, like, when there's going to be a lot of wisdom brought in terms of recovery and sobriety. And that's what Reverend Glenn brought. And so a good friend of his is Rod. And Rod and Reverend Glenn have been friends for, I don't know, a long time, I presume.
All our life.
Yeah. And really? All your lives?
All our life.
Yeah. So, we said, well, hell, let's have Rod on and, have a conversation with him. And we also have Miss V, and Miss V's behind the camera. And I don't know the relation to Miss V. She's here and she's fun. And, Rod and Miss V go at it. And I originally thought y'all were married, but
Sober supporter.
She's here to keep them in line.
she's here to keep them in line.
See, I got
So
the thumbs up.
we got
There it
Miss
is.
V here.
More
and-
support.
Yeah. All right, Rod. So let's get right into it. Let's, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from. Obviously, you're here from Florida. I think born and raised, right?
No, my background is I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, that's right.
I'm from the Buckeye State.
You're not a Browns fan, though, right?
No.
That's
I got a story for that. Why I chose to get educational field, and I left the sports field alone because I was little. I was 99 pounds when I came out of high school, so I couldn't. Only thing I could do was run. Yeah, I ran track, cross country rather.
Okay.
But my parents, I'm from Ohio. I was born in 1953, and my mother and father, they separated in 1962, because my father was alcoholic. He was a full-blown alcoholic, and he believed in child abuse back in the 60s, because he would pick me up and turn me upside down and say he gonna pound some sense in my head, and used to beat my head in the floor because I was a little bad boy. But he still didn't have to pound my head so he was alcoholic. And my mother left because he used to beat on my mother. And I promised myself, I said, one day when I get old enough, he ain't gonna hit my mama no more. And that day did come. But we left Ohio in 1964. When we left Ohio, I didn't know anything about drugs. I didn't know nothing about marijuana. Didn't know nothing about cocaine, Percocets. Didn't know nothing about pills. When I left Ohio, I didn't even see a dope deal at 9 years old. Didn't know nothing about it until I came to Florida. When I came to Florida, I used to pass by this. At 9, we used to pass by this pool shop, and everybody standing around clean. I'm like, I want to be like them one day. But I didn't know that they were selling drugs.
When you say pool shop, what do you mean? Like a pool hall?
A pool hall.
Okay, got it.
This way the guys hung out at the pool hall in Pompano.
Yeah.
They didn't stand around corner stores then because they had a pool hall to go to and hang out to. And that was in Pompano back in the 70s. And so I graduated from high school. They called me the paper boy because I made my money selling newspaper. And I still didn't get involved with no drugs. I was able to go through 12th grade without getting involved with drugs and alcohol. But in 1970, when I graduated, I started smoking marijuana. I started smoking marijuana, and I started selling marijuana. I didn't see nothing wrong with it. I didn't know there was another world called sobriety. For 50 years, I thought the only world that I knew was people that was in addiction. I didn't know there was another world out there where there were sober people. When I would go to church, the people that I knew in church, the deacons, I would see them at the bar. So this was the world I was living in. I was living in an alcohol-filled world. I call it insanity world, a world of insanity, where there was no sanity at all until I found out about AA. Now, throughout from 70 to 75, when I was in school, there's certain people you can hang with. Either you can hang with the Christians, you can hang with the alcoholics, or you can hang with the smart people. You know, I hung with the alcoholics, so I became an alcoholic in 1973, and it didn't get it. I was a beer drinker then, and it just got worse.
So you were how old in 1973? You would have been 22?
23.
23 years old?
22, 23.
And that's when you really started drinking, alcoholically?
I started drinking beer.
Yeah.
I started drinking Old Milwaukee.
Ooh.
But
yeah.
that's a cheap beer, but it was cold. When it's cold, it's good. It was good then.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
And it was like 50 cents a can, so that was my drink of choice, Old Milwaukee.
You mentioned prior to us hitting record on this that you were going to school for psychology. Psychology. Was it during that time?
During that time, I was alcoholic. I learned, but I did go to school. See, I graduated before my time, and I learned about the id, ego, and the super ego. I learned psychology. I learned how to deal with people on a psychological level, even though they don't know it, what my background entails. And and then at sociology, I deal with as a sociologist. I learned to help people to help themselves. So when I got into AA, everything God just put everything together. Because I never thought that one day I could help anybody because I was alcoholic. How can I help somebody and I'm an alcoholic? That's what I used to say to myself, God, what's going on? And I'm paranoid, I'm drunk, I'm in school trying to get education. My brother's graduated. I'm still stuck in school getting drunk.
Can you give us a snapshot of what it looked like that got you to AA? What was there a certain number of years that
What got
things
me to
really
AA?
really fell off? Was there any events in particular?
Glenn Bostic, Reverend Glenn Bostic.
Ah,
Ooh, Reverend Glenn.
He ran me down. He didn't mind. For years, he would always come to me, and because my family was involved in politics. My brother was a commissioner, and people would always point me out as the bad seed, and that I was making the family look bad. Because both my brothers, one graduated from the University of Florida, and the other one graduated from Bethune-Cookman. And we were all, I have what they call a disease. I have an allergy. This is what I learned in AA. But Reverend Bostic would always come and Rod, you need to change. You need to stop drinking. But he would always give me some money to keep on drinking. But one day he came to me when it was Ed Hawkins and Glenn Bostic. And Glenn, he came crying. He was crying one day and telling me, that I need to change. And I looked at him, and that's when I had a spiritual awakening. I had a tingling inside of me, and it was a God moment that told me that you need to stop drinking.
and how old were you at that point?
I was 59.
59? Mm-hmm. And y'all have known each other since childhood?
Since 64, when I came from Ohio. Him and my brother were playing basketball together.
Okay.
At Blanchard High School.
So you've known Reverend Glenn since you were 11.
Yeah, since I was 11. I'd say about 11, about 50 years, 60 years.
And so you guys stayed in contact, and then when you were 59 years old, he
went to school, I went to school,
yeah.
but we always came back to Pompano. He was into his little dealings, I was into my dealing. We always meet up and see each other all the time. It's like everybody had their circle of friends they was running with. He was running with one set of gangsters, I was running with another set of gangsters, and every now and then we would see each other and we would, hello, how you doing? And and then when he got into AA, before then he was spiritually enlightened to start Alpha and Omega Ministries, which was 40 years ago. He was in a program trying to help people in sobriety to get sober, and I came to his program then, but I didn't stay because I wasn't ready. So I liked it. I liked the effects of alcohol. That's what alcoholics and people in addiction do. If you like the effects, you're not going to stop, and nothing's not going to make you stop. So it took going in. I went to BARC 4 or 5 times.
So for those that don't know who BARC is a not-for-profit
Broward Alcoholic
treatment
Recovery Treatment Center. Mm-hmm. And every time I went to BARC, I brought this here because every time I went, I've been to BARC about nine times, maybe 5. I could say between 5 to 9 times. I got all my certificates like you. I got certificates. I got state of Florida journeyman's license. I got all this while I was drinking. I got a certificate in air conditioning, refrigeration, accounting, bookkeeping, auto mechanics. I did all this to try to figure out what it was that I liked doing, and finally it was air conditioning, refrigeration. And I was alcoholic, doing all this, going through all this degrees and certifications. I was alcoholic. and I never would go nowhere. I never went anywhere. And the people I associated with when I was in my addiction, they were either on alcohol or crack or cocaine.
See, this is what we tell our clients, where here you're getting all these certifications, being an auto mechanic, air conditioning, etc.
But
The things that we're able to accomplish while drinking and alcoholism, it's really quite remarkable, to be honest with you. And I feel like when people get sober, we have to tell our clients this all the time, like, slow down. We know you're capable of doing this stuff. But right now, your sobriety has to come first, and I think a lot of people have a hard time. And with what you just said, where you would get all these certificates, you have all these abilities, yet because of your alcoholism, you went nowhere.
didn't go nowhere. I was stuck.
And I think, with the folks that we work with, sometimes they have such a hard time seeing, I need to address my alcoholism first, because they always want to fix the outside. And it sounds to me, I don't want to, speak for you.
Are you speaking true?
But you're making all these accomplishments, which normally would set somebody forward. In our case, with alcoholism, it doesn't. We're just turning and burning, and finally, spiritually, like, we're dead inside because of all the energy we've, for lack of a better way to put it, wasted.
It's unfortunate too, because we see a lot of the people that they have the certificates, they have the careers, they have the all the accomplishments and stuff. Oftentimes they're the hardest ones to work with because they've done all this stuff in their alcoholism. And let's be honest, a true alcoholic true alcoholic can't graduate college. True alcoholic can't get a certificate in air conditioning. They can't do this. They can't do that. Actually, they can, and they do. But the thing is, like Ben said and you said, Rod, it prevents you. The certificates and all that stuff, those are relatively easy. Anybody can go to college for 4 years, pass, get through by the skin of your teeth. But what are you going to do with that whenever you do graduate and it's time to go into the workforce and it's time to be productive? And even then, people can go in and they can do just enough to get by. They can make just enough money to support their family, so on and so forth. But are you ever going to thrive in your career of choice, whatever that may be? Because when you're wrapped up with alcoholism or drug addiction, you can't. You can't. There's, and this is one of the arguments, and I don't want to go off on this rabbit trail, but I just want to say, like, this has Ben and I's argument on Suboxone the whole time. Suboxone. Are you familiar with Suboxone?
It's true.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. I mean, it's what a lot of people that are coming off of heroin and opiates, they use that to come off of it, and it can work in a short period of time, 7 to 10 days, during the detox and stuff like that. It can help somebody's detox be relatively manageable. You don't get as sick. But you see these people get on Suboxone maintenance, and they are on Suboxone. We have a girl in here right now that was on Suboxone for 20 years.
20 years.
And you can't tell me that you can thrive.
You're not making your potential. And kind of what I hear with Rod's story, and we see it with a lot of our clients, for instance, is they're always looking to, they never look to the inside. They're like, oh, all right, let me be an auto mechanic because that's my passion. If I can get certified in that, then I'm going to be happy and everything's going to be good. And then you get that, and it's like circumstantial. You're like, oh well, maybe I'm not as into it as I thought, and then I'm going to go get certified in air conditioning, and then I'll be happy. I'll be really good at air conditioning. I'll start my own air conditioning business, and then it's always trying to fulfill something. And at the end of the day, like it's like chasing your tail. You're always thinking, if I can just get this, then I'll be okay. And we see that with our clients all the time. They come in here, for instance, and they want to be the CEO of some vast enterprise right off the bat. When at the end of the day, we were just talking about this on the podcast. It's been recorded. We haven't released it yet, but we're learning to be an employee. learn to show up, learn to do the basics before getting way ahead of yourself. And again, take care of that alcoholism first.
Well, people can't even show up for themselves, let alone show up for other people, in careers and stuff like that. I mean, it's if you can't be responsible with your own body, how are you going to be responsible to have a career? How are you going to have the responsibility? Because if I'm an employer, I'm gonna have you figured out real quick, because a true drug addict and a true alcoholic, generally speaking, doesn't take too long for us to screw up in some capacity.
We hear this argument all the time. For instance, like we'll have say for instance, an attorney here. They've worked in law for 20 years, and they'll come in here and be like, "I've never lost a job because of my drinking. I'm successful." But then I'm like, "Oh, you working right now?" Well, no.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, I quit my job. I didn't before they caught me. You lost your job. Let's just call it what it is. They may not have come towards you. You might have beat them to the punch, but that was coming. Yeah. You're currently not working because of your alcoholism.
Yeah.
Or if they haven't fired you, you're in treatment so they don't fire you.
Correct.
But I had a problem with there are people that tell me there's this thing called functioning addict or functioning alcoholic because you go to work. I say you may be functioning, but once them people get on that job, you don't know what kind of mistakes they're making. There's no, to me, this just to me only, there's no such thing as a functioning alcoholic or functioning addict because they go to work. You can't go to work every day. I heard Reverend Boxer speaks about it all the time. Anytime you ingest any chemicals in your mind becomes going to another phase where you're not thinking straight. And you can't ingest drugs and still think that you are saying something positive. You can't do it. I've tried it, and I know it don't work.
I like the fact that you brought up the terminology functioning alcoholic. We actually just had a client this week, young guy approached me and he said, "I wish I could be a functioning alcoholic like my dad." And I'm just thinking to myself, like,
yeah, really.
Didn't you also mention to me that you don't even like your dad? Like, and it's really sad. You were talking about the insanity earlier. That's the insanity of it.
Well, and I thought of that too. And now that you bring that up, it triggered a memory for. I was one to say that for a long time when I got. First off, I never identified as an alcoholic when I was drinking.
Me neither.
Yeah. It wasn't until after I went to treatment and stuff that and hearing other people's stories and their experiences and stuff like that is when I came to realize, okay, yes, I am what they call an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But then I started hearing the term functioning alcoholic and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess that was me because I did go to work and so on and so forth.
Right.
But after hearing what you say, no, I wasn't. Because I was physically there. But that's it.
Dropping cars off lifts.
Yeah, and I was a mechanic. That before getting sober, I was a mechanic, and
right.
I blew up engines because I forgot to put oil in a car because I was all zonked out.
Yeah.
I dropped a brand new pickup truck 10 feet in the air, straight to the ground, totaled the truck.
Functioning.
Hit every single telephone pole that was in the car lot.
Wow.
I was physically there. But going back, Ben, to what you said, both of you, I remember distinctly, probably when I was 24 years old, I had an opportunity, and I didn't do this, but just to kind of show you the mindset that I was in, I had an opportunity to go work for a trucking company at 24 years old as an overnight diesel mechanic. And I distinctly remember sitting at the bar thinking about this opportunity. Two things. One, the money was going to be great. It was going to be about double what I was making. But then the other main reason that I was considering it was because if I took the overnight shift, maybe I wouldn't drink as much. And I was 24 years old when I was thinking that. And I didn't ultimately end up doing it because for many reasons, somebody probably wouldn't want to be a diesel mechanic working midnight shift. But just the mindset that I was in at 24, that to consider a job based on the fact that I may not consume as much alcohol, it may help me, kind of slow down a little bit, and so I thought that was pretty interesting. And I didn't take it, and I continued what I was doing for the next 2 years. But
Well, let's tell the truth. His nickname at the bar was Norm. And
yeah, you remember Cheers?
He just didn't want to
Yeah.
lose his bar stool to somebody else.
Yeah.
He couldn't leave that vacant.
Yeah.
But it's one thing when I was talking about Bart, they kept telling me about people, places, and things, and I should say, well, I live in a drug neighborhood. What can I do? Well, you have to change your people, places, and things. I found out that you don't have to change your people, places, and things. You need to get a spiritual connection with a group. You need to find your fellowship of sober people that you can talk to, and then you could go back in that neighborhood and you could sit back and you could look at TV in your front yard of all the drug deals going on, of all the people walking back and forth to the drug house, and you just say no. My thing with what I found out, I'm gonna say how Satan works, is that when I became sober, my class decided to make me the bartender. I'm the bartender. I'm serving drinks. Alcoholic serving drinks, got all this beer behind him. Guess what? Before I left there, they were calling the police on me. I was drinking. I was trying to steal the beer. And this is something that I had to put a defense up since I've been in AA. I had to get willpower to let them know I am an alcoholic and I am in an AA program. Why every time we have a meeting, y'all want to set all the liquor on my table? And I said, it's nothing but the devil. So I learned that I had a choice to either stay or leave. The choice is to leave in order to save my sobriety. Because people, places, and things is what I tell I told my sponsee, I had one sponsee, and he's doing very well, that in order to survive in this world, first we got to admit that we're powerless over alcohol. And I had a hard time admitting I was alcoholic. Because everybody, can you imagine, everybody you're around at the bar drinking. Wherever you go, you around a bunch of people drinking. You never around sober people. And then one day I went to 101 Club, AA, and I found out there was a world of sober people. There were actually people that live in this world that were sober. And I was upset because I didn't have that joy. I wanted that joy that they had. And so I became AA when I saw the spiritual principles of, and it had God, God, God. And because me being a Christian, I heard y'all talk about it on Glenn's podcast, me being a Christian, because it said God, and I was raised up in a Christian family, then that showed me this is the way I should go, Alcoholics Anonymous. And since then, I got this thing where I tell people, in the end, we have a verse that says we place principles before personalities. Well, my principles are the 12 steps, are the 12 honesty, faith, hope, charity, and the personalities are the 7 deadly sins: lust, gluttony, greed. That's the personality. So when they say we place principles, 12 steps, personalities, 7 deadly sins.
There was 2 things there that I want to touch on. One was the people, places, and things, but also there's 2 types of people that end up in Alcoholics Anonymous or any 12-step fellowship. Those that aren't aware that they're alcoholic or they don't diagnose themselves, like you were saying. You didn't think you were an alcoholic.
No.
My case, I knew I was an alcoholic and a drug addict forever. From the very first time I took a drink, if I knew what alcoholism was, I would have known. Like, for sure. Like, it was never a question for me. At what point did you say to yourself, what was it that made you decide, like, and diagnose yourself, yes, I'm an alcoholic?
DUIs. DUIs,
Plural.
DUIs.
Multiple, huh?
Multiple DUIs, 52 to 100 times and out of jail. And what really made me know I had a problem and I was alcoholic when I picked up the big book, and then the doctor's opinion told me that I had an allergy. I couldn't drink like normal people. When I drink, I had to fight, I had to cuss, and you couldn't. Anything you said to me was wrong. I had to be right. And people, places, and things. I had an instance with one of our members, our so-called members, in and out. That and the only reason that you went to jail that day because you was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's what we call people, places, and things. You got to change your playgrounds. You got to change your playmates. I had to stop associating with my brothers. I had to stop associating. I had every girl I had was alcoholic except girlfriend. In Ohio, unfortunately for me, when I came from Ohio was an elevated state for education was, because we called girls girlfriends. I got down to Florida, it was a sin to call a girl girlfriend because she had to be in Ohio, it was girlfriend. Got to Florida, it was reversed. It was friend girl or friend boy. And we call boys boyfriend. That's my boyfriend. It was some norm in Cleveland, Ohio. It's a norm. Get to Florida, the thing then flipped. I said, oh, that's my girl. I ain't your girlfriend. Wait a minute. Now what didn't happen? It was just a change. Just like in AA, it was a change for me to get sober and realize the potential I had to help other people, to get with Bostic and Ed Hawkins to start up a group in the hood where we could make a difference. And if you both know, it's hard. It's hard to convince people that if they become sober, they'll have a better life. If they'll move away from that insane world, that fantasy world, and they'll get into a reality world and a sane world if they stop drinking and drugging. Because I was in that world for 50 years, getting DUIs, going to jail, fighting, cocaine, girlfriends, alcoholic girlfriends. I'm an alcoholic. They doing cocaine. This ain't gonna last. And it never did last. It never did. It never did. And they never worked. I was always the one providing, but I was providing for the dope, the alcohol, and my alcohol at the same time. So eventually it was gonna fall, and it did fall. I went to jail. When I went to jail, it was all over.
When was that?
This was in this 59. This was when I was like 55, 50. I had saved up $10,000. Listen, I had saved $10,000. I saved it because I was working after the refrigeration, and I was able to save money. But then I went down to Miami and met this entertainer.
Entertainer. That's a very broad term, but
yeah, she was an entertainer.
Okay,
and I had $10,000. So
you didn't have $10,000 a couple hours later.
In 3 months, I was broke.
Lasted 3 months.
Yeah, she was doing
That's a long
cocaine.
time.
She was doing cocaine underhandedly. I kept a car. I paid for a car. And then $10,000. 3 months, I was broke. So and after that, everything just went straight down.
And so you ended up going to jail.
Going to jail
at 50.
Yeah. Well, no, I went to jail at 26. 26, I got a timeline. 26, 30, it was every 5-10 years. 40, 50, I went to jail, DUI.
So original question was, when did you diagnose yourself alcoholic? And in your response, to kind of sum it up, you touched on, in my opinion, the most important fact. It's the allergy. But then you also touched on the consequences. And the consequences I kind of look at as like the evidence that we might have this allergy. And the allergy, I won't get too much into it, but you can go back and listen to our episode on the first step, we cover like the doctor's opinion, stuff along those lines, phenomenon of craving. The other part I wanted to touch on was the people, places, and things, because you said something that jumped out to me a few minutes ago, where I was taught the same thing, people, places, and things. And I really changed people, places, and things. But I was born in Fort Lauderdale, grew up in the West Palm area, ended up going to Minnesota. People, places, and things, completely different. And guess who went along with me? I did. Next thing you know, I'm probably
right.
I wasn't partaking as much criminal activity, but my drug use was more.
Yeah.
I think I had like an easier time laying low in Minnesota, if that makes sense. It's a little more calm up there than it is in Broward and Palm Beach County. But with that being said, the people, places, and things, you know, the big book talks about we can go anywhere so long as we have good reason for doing so. And the line that jumped out to me that you said was, you know, that with the places, you live in a drug dealing neighborhood.
Right.
You know, so, but that's where you live. You have good reason to be there.
That's where I live. Can't go nowhere.
So, and the reason I want to bring this up is because, like, for instance, we have clients here, they have families, situations that they have to go back to. We can't run from our problems. We can't run from people, places, and things. Sometimes we're attached to that stuff. You know, if I have kids back home and I'm down here for rehab, and I got to go back home for my kids most likely at some point. You know, there's a healthy time to do that and a way to go about it. And I don't want that to get misconstrued. We do have responsibilities to get back to. And again, put your alcoholism, your addiction first. But we can go anywhere so long as we have good reason, if we're in good, fit spiritual condition.
I want to chime in on this real quick because I don't want people to get a misunderstanding. If you're able to change people, places, and things, it's going to be it's going to be very beneficial.
Yes, definitely.
Right.
There are situations in which, like Rod described, like, this is my home. I'm not sitting on a bunch of money where I can just say, screw it, sell my house and move somewhere else. Yeah, you know, and like,
I'm 70 years old.
Yeah, there's people that have, you know, families and stuff that don't have that ability. But with that being said, if you do have the ability, what I like to say is don't let people, places, and things make decisions for you. If the decision that needs to be made is it for your own benefit,
Well,
you know? So like, I don't know. I just want to say that.
No, like a good example on the other side of that to back up what you're saying. For instance, we'll have a client come here, maybe a young man in his early 20s, has no kids, nothing to go back to back home. So,
yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I got to get back home." It's like, for what?
I gotta go. I gotta go home. Yeah,
just stay in Florida. I end up telling him relocate. It's kind of funny because I would honestly probably say 80% of our clients that are from out of state end up relocating here. It's really interesting. Palm Beach County is just such a hub for recovery, and Broward, South Florida in general. But so many of them end up staying in this area because the recovery culture is so good.
I wanted to just tell you a story about this.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up.
This
So
Narcan here.
here, let me see it.
Right behind my where I help my brother with his insurance business, we have a homeless group. And one of the homeless people were ODing in the back of the building, so we went back there. The dope man that sold the fentanyl to her, he had a pouch. He reached in his pouch and pulled this out because he don't want his clients to die. And he shot her with some Narcan and brought her back to life. And I'm saying, well, wow. I mean, this was really amazing. I mean, this was like a shock to me. The dope man riding around with Narcan to make sure that his clients, knowing he's selling bad stuff, to make sure he should go to jail, but he did save a life that day.
What a nice drug dealer.
Yeah, you don't see too many of them.
No. But back to what you said. When I realized I was alcoholic, when I was drinking, when I started buying a fifth of Absolute vodka, and a case of Budweiser. And then I would drink until I had blackouts. And then I would drink until whoever brought me home would come back the next day to tell me what I did.
That's the worst.
Man, let me tell you what you did. And I don't want to hear it. So now I've been sober for 6 years and 8 months.
Awesome.
I haven't heard that yet. Nobody comes to me and tell me what you did last night. Nobody come to me and tell me about how I was incomprehensible, pitiful, incomprehensible, and demoralized in the public. Because that's what it was. I was pitiful, incomprehensible, and demoralized. Utilizing in the public, urinating in the public, cussing people out, going to the wrong house, getting jumped on, beat up, because, alcohol had me in a whole different world. And so once I was, that Absolute vodka and that case of Budweiser, that made me know I was alcoholic. But I would always ask God why. I would reach out to God. I would go to church drunk. They would put me out. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't understand really what my problem was. I knew I was alcoholic. Nobody could help me, but till I found out that there was a God, and that AA taught me to pray and ask God for help. And when I started praying, one day the desire just went away. The desire for alcohol just went away. Like I said, I had a spiritual awakening with Glenn. I had a spiritual awakening with alcohol. I no longer desire alcohol.
That's
Rod. I want to ask you something. And you're 70?
70 years old.
And you have 6 years and 8 months. So you would have been
6 months.
60. You would have been 63 when you got sober, right?
Right.
Oftentimes, good. What were you going to say?
59. Really, but I started my sobriety date when I got an AA, and I got an AA in March of 2017.
Interesting. So you haven't picked up alcohol since you were 59,
right? Because I went, no. That's when I started, because I was 12 years with hypothyroidism. I was in the hospital for 12 days, and I hadn't had a drink, but because I got hospitalized for hypothyroidism for 12 days, and when I came out, I was 99 pounds. I didn't have anything to do. So I'm sitting around the house, 99 pounds, can't do nothing. I got bored. And the thought came to have one beer and sit outside. Nah, it turned into a nightmare. I couldn't drink one beer. I had to drink a case. And from a case, it went to
as much as you could.
Yeah.
So you're
in 60, in like you said, in 63, when I got into AA, that's when I totally quit drinking.
Okay. My question is at 63 years old, and because I've heard this, from people that, I'm 63. What the hell's the point in getting sober now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you ever have that thought? Like,
of course I did. When I retired, I was going to get me an ounce of marijuana, a case of Budweiser, and sit on the creek and fish. That was my plan. I was going to be retired out there drinking and smoking, but it didn't turn out like that, because I wanted to drink and drive when I got drunk. Fishing was the last thing on my mind. I wanted to get drunker, and the desire, the effects of wanting to drink and knowing how injurious and how devastating it was going to be in the end. I continued drinking, and I continued going to jail, and I continued getting DUIs. That fantasy about sitting on the creek drinking and and with immune and having drinking what I called it being a functional drinker, it didn't happen. I became somebody told me I was a angry alcoholic. That's what I became, an angry alcoholic. And Mr. Bosley's running around looking for me, picking me up, buying me beer, and telling me about I need to get an AA. And one day he picked me up and I went for it because I was sick and tired of getting drunk. I'd get paid on the first. It got so bad until I was about to lose everything. I didn't have no friends. People in addiction, they're not your friends. I told my sponsor, they're not the people that that's in addiction that want you to continue to stay drunk and smoke reefer. Them are not your friends. Them your enemies, your frenemies. You need to get rid of them because eventually, if you hang around people, places, and things, you going back to that same. But as long as you sane, miracles are going to happen. If you stay sober, I tell the group, if you stay sober, miracles are going to happen, and believe in God, miracles are going to happen. You get everything you lost, you're going to get it back. I got everything I lost back. My AC certification, it didn't bother that, but all the jobs, when I stopped drinking and I got into AA, everything, the furniture, the money, I got all that back. Then I got good friends. I got people that are constructive, positive, people that mean me well. Whereas when I was in my addiction, I was around people that mean me no good. Stole from me. I wake up broke, wallet gone, had everything gone. Then and these are the people that I hung around with, And today it's not like that. Today AA program has shown me a different way of life in that things will happen for the best as long as I follow those 12 principles and stay in to believe in God. And things have gotten better for me in my life. Look at the friends I have. I got a Miss V, that's a friend. Got Glenn Bosch, that's a friend. These are the people that I'm around, positive, constructive, people that want to do something. Not stand around the corner and talk about everybody all day long and just throw your life away. That's what I was doing. And if I continued to doing it, I wouldn't be around these people today. If I were still in my addiction, I'd be standing on the corner with the rest of the brothers, drinking, smoking, and thinking it's okay. It's not okay. Today I'm happy. I'm very happy to be in AA. I'm very happy to follow the principles, knowing that I do place principles before personalities. And I'm glad to know today, just for today, I'm sober. And
I think that's a good that's a good place to end.
Yes, sir.
That was good.
That was a good closing. Thank
That
you.
was. Well, Rod, listen, I really appreciate you coming on, and you guys are always welcome here. And even if it's not to record or whatever, just come hang out and,
I'm hoping that Rock Road will come to our event on October 28th, the Substance Abuse, Homeless, Mental Health Awareness Day. And it's going to be all the recovery communities in our area are going to be there. Fellowship, they're going to be there. We got 101, 441. We got Pompano Beginners. All the recovery groups are going to be there. And I would appreciate it for Rock Road. Y'all send. If y'all don't come, send a representative.
Yeah, we'll have somebody there.
Because we definitely going to have a sober event going on.
Good.
Yeah.
Ben, any final thoughts?
No, it's always a pleasure having y'all up here, Rod.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you for making the drive.
Yeah, no problem. We got an Uber driver, Miss B.
You're sober.
Yeah, and we're sober.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.